Close your eyes and imagine the most romantic city in the world. A city of light, of art, of iron and elegance. Tonight, we invite you on a gentle journey through Paris, through its monuments, its secrets, its quiet beauty. Welcome to the Sleepy City Travelers Channel. Let yourself sink into comfort, let your breathing slow, and drift with us as we explore 100 sleepy facts about Paris, about art, and about the tower that changed everything. We begin, as all great stories begin, with a dream, a vision of something that had never existed before, something impossible, something that would pierce the sky. The Eiffel Tower was built as the entrance arch for the 1889 World's Fair. Picture Paris in that year, the city preparing, celebrating. This fair, this grand exposition, marked the 100th anniversary of the French Revolution, a century since the old world fell, a century since liberty, equality, fraternity became the cry of a nation. And to mark this moment, this threshold between past and future, Paris needed a gateway, a monument, something unforgettable. But here is something remarkable, something that seems almost impossible now. This tower, this structure that would become the very symbol of Paris, the very symbol of France itself, was originally intended to stand for only 20 years. 20 years after the fair ended, after the crowds dispersed, the plan was to dismantle it, to take it apart piece by piece, to sell it for scrap metal. The tower was temporary, disposable, a celebration that would end when the party was over. Let that settle in your mind. The Eiffel Tower, temporary. Imagine Paris without it now. Impossible, unthinkable. Yet that was the intention. Beauty, it seems, sometimes survives despite our plans. Gustave Eiffel, the man behind the tower, his name forever linked to this monument. But before the tower, before he became synonymous with iron, elegance, Eiffel was actually a famous bridge builder. He understood spans, understood how to make metal arc across rivers, across valleys, how to make structures that seemed to float, that defied gravity with grace. He took this knowledge, this understanding of tension and compression, of forces and materials, and turned it skyward, a bridge standing on end, reaching not across space, but toward the clouds. The tower is made of puddled iron, not steel, not cast iron, but puddled iron. This is a type of high-quality wrought iron. It was made by a careful process, heating and stirring a molten iron to remove impurities. The result is metal that is strong, flexible, resistant to the elements. Run your hand across old puddled iron, if you ever have the chance, and it feels slightly rough, textured, cool to the touch. Even on warm days, metal holds the coolness of night, holds the memory of rain. It consists of 18,038 individual metallic parts. Count them if you could. Stand beneath the tower and try to comprehend. 18,000 pieces, each one designed, each one manufactured, each one transported, each one lifted into place. A puzzle of unimaginable complexity. And these pieces, these thousands of pieces, are joined together by precisely 2.5 million rivets. 2.5 million rivets, each one a small miracle of human coordination. Each rivet required a 4-person team to install, a choreographed dance of labor. One person to heat the rivet in a portable forge until it glowed orange. One to hold it in place with tongs, steadying it, positioning it perfectly. One to shape the head with careful hammer blows. and one to hammer it home, to drive it tight, to make it permanent. 4 people working in rhythm, installing rivet after rivet after rivet for months. The sound must have been extraordinary. The ring of metal on metal, echoing across the Champ de Mars. A symphony of industry. At the time of its completion, the tower was the tallest man-made structure in the world. Think about that. The tallest. Nothing stood higher. No building, no monument, no structure of any kind. For 41 years, the Eiffel Tower held this title. 41 years of being the closest point to heaven that human hands had built. The peak of human ambition made visible in iron. But not everyone celebrated. The tower was controversial, deeply controversial. A group of artists, writers, architects signed a document, a protest. The protest against the Tower of Monsieur Eiffel. They called it this marvel of engineering, a gigantic black smokestack, an eyesore, a pollution of the Parisian skyline. They saw ugliness where Eiffel saw beauty. They saw industry where he saw art. They wanted it stopped. They wanted Paris to remain unchanged. The writer Guy de Maupassant, one of the protesters, supposedly ate lunch at the tower's restaurant every day. Every single day. Why? Because it was the only place in Paris where he didn't have to look at it. The irony, the beautiful irony, seeking refuge inside the very thing he despised, finding peace in the shadow of his enemy. But Eiffel understood something the critics didn't. He understood wind. The tower's design is incredibly wind-resistant. When the strongest gales blow, when storms sweep across Paris, the tower sways only about 5 inches. 5 inches. At the top, 300 meters above the ground, the movement is gentle, slight, like a tree bending in breeze. The lattice structure, all those open spaces, allow wind to pass through. The tower doesn't fight the wind, it dances with it. However, there is another force, more powerful than wind, more persistent, the sun. The sun causes the iron to expand. Metal grows when heated. The tower can grow up to 6 inches taller during a hot Parisian summer. 6 inches of expansion. The iron reaching upward, stretching, responding to warmth, and then contracting when winter comes, shrinking back, breathing with the seasons. To protect this iron, to keep it from rusting, requires constant care. It takes 60 tons of paint to recoat the tower every 7 years. 60 tons. Imagine that quantity. Enough to fill a small swimming pool. Teams of painters working carefully, methodically, covering every surface, every beam, every rivet, protecting the metal, preserving the monument. The tower has been painted many colors over the decades. It has not always been the color you see today. It has been reddish-brown, like aged copper. It has been bright yellow, shocking against the gray Parisian sky. It has been bronze, each generation choosing, each era leaving its mark. Color as history, color as preference, color as identity. The current color is a custom shade called Eiffel Tower Brown. Not just one uniform color, but 3 different gradients. Darkest at the bottom, where it meets the earth, gradually lightening as it rises. Lighter at the top, where it meets the sky. This creates an optical illusion, makes the tower look uniform against the sky. The eye doesn't notice the gradation, sees only perfect consistency. Art in service of engineering. Engineering in service of art. Gustave Eiffel had a secret apartment at the very top of the tower. Can you imagine a private space high above the city, above the noise, above the crowds, the very peak of his creation. He entertained elite guests there. Thomas Edison visited, the famous inventor, meeting the famous engineer at the top of the world. They must have stood at the windows, looking out over Paris. Two men who changed everything, sharing the view. The apartment was decorated with soft yellow wallpaper. Grand pianos stood in corners. Velvet cabinets lined the walls. All of this luxury suspended in the sky, high above the noisy streets, above the carriages and crowds. A sanctuary of quietness and refinement. A room that touched the clouds. The lifts, the elevators that carry visitors to the top, are marvels themselves. They travel a combined distance of 64,000 miles per year, more than twice the circumference of the Earth. Think of all those journeys, all those visitors rising through the tower's iron latticework, ascending, descending, day after day, the mechanisms endlessly working, cables and gears and pulleys, a vertical railroad. During the German occupation in World War II, the lift cables were cut, deliberately severed, an act of quiet resistance. Hitler came to Paris, the conqueror, and he wanted to ascend the tower, to stand at the top of his prize. But the lifts didn't work. He would have to climb the 1,665 steps to the top. He chose not to. The tower, even conquered, remained unconquered. Silent defiance in iron. The tower was saved from demolition because it proved useful. Useful as a giant radio, antenna, for military communications, for weather signals. The height that made it controversial, that made artists call it ugly, that made people want it destroyed. This same height made it invaluable. Function saved what beauty couldn't. Though now we understand. It was always beautiful. There are over 20,000 light bulbs on the tower. 20,000 points of light. These bulbs sparkle for 5 minutes every hour on the hour after sunset. The whole tower, shimmering, glittering. The sparkle was designed to look like diamonds dancing against the iron lattice, like stars caught in a net, like the tower celebrating itself, reminding Paris, reminding the world that it is still here, still spectacular, still worthy of wonder. The tower's base is oriented to the 4 points of the compass, north, south, east, west, precisely aligned, anchoring it perfectly to the Parisian soil. This wasn't random. This was intentional. The tower grounds itself in geography, in the cardinal directions, in the ancient human need to know where we stand in relation to the world. In winter, when cold settles over Paris, the iron lattice could become coated in a fine layer of frost, ice crystals forming on metal. The Iron Lady transforms, becomes a silver sculpture, delicate, ethereal. The rough iron softened by frozen moisture. The tower at its most fragile looking, though no less strong. Beauty taking a different form. The names of 72 French scientists and engineers are engraved in the iron, just below the first balcony. Look for them if you visit. Names like Lagrange, Laplace, Fresnel, Fourier, men who advanced human knowledge, who pushed science forward. Eiffel honored them, made them permanent, gave them a place on his monument. These names, engraved in iron, will last as long as the tower stands. The tower's silhouette is now so iconic, so recognizable, that it is protected by copyright. But here's the interesting detail. Only when it is illuminated at night. During the day, the tower's shape is public domain. Anyone can photograph it. Anyone can reproduce it. But those 20,000 lights, that sparkling display that belongs to the estate, that is protected. Light, not iron, creates ownership. Beauty, captured and controlled. This tower, this temporary structure that was supposed to last 20 years, has stood for over 130. It has become more than metal, more than engineering. It has become symbol. It has become Paris itself. When you think of France, you see the tower. When you dream of romance, of art, of human achievement, the tower rises in your mind. Gustave Eiffel built more than he knew. He built a bridge between earth and sky, between the industrial and the beautiful, between temporary and eternal. He built a ladder made of iron and ambition, and we are still climbing it, still ascending toward his vision, still discovering that what seems impossible, what seems ugly, what seems temporary, can become the very thing that defines beauty, that defines permanence, that defines us. The iron stands, the rivets hold, the paint protects, the lights sparkle, and Paris glows beneath it, proud of its tower, its revolution in iron, its monument to the audacity of dreaming big. And now, we continue forward, deeper into the city of light, discovering more secrets, more beauty, more reasons to fall in love with Paris. Paris, la ville lumière, the city of light. This name, this beautiful name, echoes through history, through poetry, through the imagination of everyone who has ever dreamed of walking its streets. But why light? What makes Paris, of all the cities in the world, the city of light? Paris earned the nickname La Ville Lumière, not just because of its beauty, not just because of romance, not just because artists and philosophers gathered here to share ideas. Though all of these things are true, Paris became the city of light because it was a pioneer in street lighting, in pushing back the darkness, in making the night safe, visible, navigable. Imagine Paris in the 1660s. Narrow streets, medieval streets, dark, profoundly dark. At night, the sun sets and the city becomes dangerous. Criminals hide in shadows. People hesitate to venture out. The night belongs to those who would do harm. But then, a change. The chief of police, a man named Gabriel, Nicolas de la Reynie, ordered something revolutionary. The first lanterns and candles were to be placed in windows, to light the streets, to push back the darkness. Picture this, evening falling, and one by one, candles appearing in windows, lanterns hung outside doors, small flames flickering, creating pools of light. Not bright, not like modern streetlights, but enough. Enough to see, enough to walk safely, enough to recognize a face. The city transforming, becoming visible, becoming safer. Light as protection, light as civilization. By the 1820s, Paris introduced gaslighting. This was another revolution, a leap forward. Thousands of glass-globed lamps installed throughout the city. These lamps burned gas, piped through underground lines, creating a soft, flickering orange glow. Not the harsh white of electric lights, but warm, gentle, like firelight, like candlelight elevated, controlled. Each evening, as dusk approached, the gas lamps needed to be lit. They didn't turn on automatically. They required human attention, human care. The lamplighters emerged, men with long poles, moving silently through the mist, through the gathering darkness, stopping at each lamp, reaching up with their poles, opening the gas valve, touching flame to gas, and light would bloom. Soft orange light, spreading outward. One lamp, then another, then another. A constellation forming at street level. These lamplighters were artists in their way, painting the city with light, creating safety with flame. The soft hiss of the gas lamps became a signature sound, the sound of the 19th century Parisian night. Walk the streets after dark, and you would hear it, a gentle hissing, like whispered conversations, like the city breathing, the sound of gas flowing, of flames burning, of Paris glowing. This sound is mostly gone now, lost to history, but close your eyes and try to hear it, that gentle hiss, that soundtrack of a softer, slower time. Today, there are still a few historic gas lamps functioning in the city, kept for their nostalgic, warm light, preserved like museum pieces, like living memories. You can find them if you know where to look, in certain squares, on certain streets, still burning, still hissing softly, still casting that warm orange glow, connecting the present to the past, reminding us that not everything must be modern, that sometimes the old ways have their own beauty. The Champs-Élysées, perhaps the most famous avenue in the world. This grand boulevard, stretching from the Place de la Concorde to the Arc de Triomphe, was one of the first avenues in the world to be fully illuminated by electric arc lamps. Not gas, not candles, but electricity, the new miracle, the future made visible. Arc lamps produced a bright, almost harsh light, blue-white, electric, modern. People came just to see, to walk beneath these new lights, to experience the brightness, the clarity, the sense that a new age had arrived. The street names in Paris, have you noticed them? They're carved into blue enameled plates with white lettering, deep blue, like the evening sky, white letters standing out clearly. This is a tradition that dates back to 1844. Before this, street names were inconsistent, hard to read, confusing. But someone decided that Paris deserved better, deserved clarity, deserved beauty even in its street signs. So these blue plates were created, standardized, installed throughout the city, and they remain. A small detail, but details matter. Details create character. Most of the city's grand buildings are made of Lutetia limestone. This stone, this beautiful pale stone, was quarried from beneath the city itself, beneath Paris, beneath your feet as you walk, are vast networks of ancient quarries, tunnels, chambers, places where stone was cut and removed, carried up to the surface, shaped into blocks, built into buildings. The city, quite literally rising from its own depths, building itself from its own substance. This limestone has a particular quality. It's creamy, pale yellow, almost white, but not quite. There's warmth to it, and this stone, this Lutetia limestone, absorbs the sunset. As evening approaches, as the sun hangs low, the buildings begin to glow. They turn a soft pink, then gold, the stone holding the light, reflecting it, amplifying it. Just before the blue hour begins, that magical time between day and night, Paris becomes almost luminous, the buildings themselves seeming to generate light, to glow from within. Beneath the beautiful streets, beneath the limestone buildings, beneath the cafes and boulevards and monuments, lies a second city, a shadow city, the catacombs, where the bones of 6 million people rest in silent limestone tunnels. 6 million. Try to comprehend that number. The remains of generations, of centuries, stacked carefully, arranged in patterns. Walls of bones, corridors of skulls, a city of the dead beneath the city of the living. The catacombs were created in the 1780s, not from cruelty, not from darkness, but from necessity. Paris's cemeteries were overflowing, literally overflowing. Bodies stacked too shallow, too close together. Disease spreading, the smell becoming unbearable. Something had to be done, so the decision was made. The dead would be moved, relocated to the old quarries beneath the city. The bones were exhumed, transferred, arranged, creating this vast ossuary, this underground monument to mortality. The air in the catacombs stays a constant 57 degrees Fahrenheit, 14 degrees Celsius, year-round, regardless of the weather above. In summer, when Paris bakes in the heat, the catacombs remain cool. In winter, when frost covers the streets, the catacombs remain the same, constant, unchanging. The temperature of the earth itself, of stone and darkness and stillness. Step into the catacombs, and you step into a different climate, a different world. Time moves differently down there, or perhaps doesn't move at all. Paris is divided into 20 districts, arrondissements. These aren't random, aren't arbitrary. They spiral outward from the center, like the shell of a snail, starting at the first arrondissement in the heart of the city and spiraling clockwise, outward, expanding, each loop of the spiral containing more area, more streets, more life. This organization is elegant, mathematical, organic, the city growing like a living thing, like a nautilus shell, like a galaxy. The Pont Neuf, the oldest standing bridge in Paris, despite its name meaning new bridge. This is one of those beautiful ironies that cities accumulate. The new bridge, now ancient, built between 1578 and 1607, over 400 years old. And yet, when it was built, it was revolutionary. It was the first bridge in the city to have sidewalks, raised platforms to protect pedestrians from the mud of the street, from the horses and carts, from the chaos of traffic. Before this, bridges were just roadways, dangerous to cross on foot. But the Pont Neuf said, pedestrians matter. People matter. They deserve safety. They deserve space. The bridge features 384 mascarons. These are stone carvings of grotesque faces, strange faces, some animal, some human, some something in between. They peer out from the bridge, watch the river flow, watch the city live. They have been watching for over 400 years. Rain has worn them smooth in places. Time has softened their features, but they remain silent witnesses, permanent observers. If these faces could speak, imagine the stories they could tell, the centuries they have seen, the history that has flowed beneath them like the river itself, the Seine River, flowing through the heart of the city, the artery, the pulse. Without the Seine, Paris would be a different city, perhaps no city at all. The river provided transportation, commerce, water, life. It shaped where the city grew, how it developed. The islands in the Seine, the Île de la Cité and Île Saint-Louis. These were the birthplace of Paris, the original settlement. Everything else grew outward from these islands, from this river. At night, the water of the Seine is a deep, moving charcoal color. Not quite black, not quite grey, but dark, reflective. The lights from the bridges, from the buildings, from the boats, all shimmer on its surface. The river becomes a moving mirror, constantly shifting, constantly changing. Watch the Seine at night, and you're watching light dance. Watch the current carry reflections downstream. Watch the city doubled, tripled, infinitely multiplied in moving water. There are 37 bridges spanning the Seine within the city limits. 37 different crossings, each with its own unique architectural style. Some are ancient stone, some are elegant iron, some are modern concrete, each generation adding its own bridge, its own style, its own connection between the two banks. Walking Paris, you can walk its architectural history by crossing its bridges, from medieval to modern, from stone to steel. Each bridge a time capsule, each crossing a journey through centuries. The Pont Alexandre III is the most ornate bridge, perhaps the most ornate bridge anywhere. It's decorated with winged golden horses, 4 of them, 2 at each end. Golden, magnificent. These horses rear up, seem to leap, seem ready to fly from their pedestals. They shimmer in the sun, catch the light, become almost blinding in their brightness. This bridge was built for the 1800 Paris Exposition, built as a symbol of Franco-Russian friendship, built to be beautiful, to be excessive, to be unforgettable. And it succeeded. Walk across Pont Alexandre III, and you walk through a dream, through Belle Époque extravagance, through gold and stone and artistic ambition. The bouquinistes, the famous open-air booksellers, they line the banks of the Seine in green metal stalls, dark green boxes, open during the day to display their wares. Books, prints, postcards, posters, treasures and trash mixed together. The joy is in searching, in browsing, in discovering something unexpected. These stalls have been a part of the city's architectural landscape since the 16th century. For over 400 years, people have bought books by the river, have searched for rare volumes, have discovered forgotten authors. The bouquinistes are more than vendors. They're custodians of literary history. They're part of the soul of Paris, the Place de la Concorde, one of the largest squares in Paris, and at its center, something that seems impossibly out of place. An Egyptian obelisk, 3,300 years old, taller than a 10-story building, made of red granite, covered in hieroglyphics. This was a gift from Egypt in the 1830s, a gesture of friendship, a connection between ancient and modern civilizations. The obelisk once stood at the entrance to the Luxor temple, in the desert, under the Egyptian sun, and now it stands in Paris, in a different climate, in a different world, marking time, marking space, a sundial of empire. The gold leaf tip of the obelisk points toward the sky, catches the sun, reflects it, acts as a giant sundial for the square below. As the sun moves, the shadow moves, marking the hours, marking the passage of time. This ancient technology, this simple but profound way of tracking our movement through the day, still working, still accurate, after 3 millennia. At night, the city's light reflects off the river, creating a rippling mirror effect of the architecture. Stand by the Seine after dark, look at the water, and you see 2 cities, the real city rising on both banks, and the reflected city, wavering, shimmering, dancing on the water's surface. Buildings doubled, lights multiplied, beauty amplified. The river becomes a canvas, the lights become paint. And Paris paints itself, creates its own art, celebrates its own beauty without trying, without effort, simply by existing, by glowing, by reflecting. This is why Paris is the city of light, not just because of street lamps, not just because of electricity, but because the city understands light, understands how it transforms, how it reveals, how it creates beauty. From those first candles in windows, to the gas lamps with their soft hiss, to the electric arc lamps of the Champs-Élysées, to the modern lights that make the Eiffel Tower sparkle. Paris has always been about light, about pushing back darkness, about making beauty visible, about creating spaces where people can see, can be seen, can live safely and beautifully. The limestone buildings hold the sunset, the river reflects the city, the bridges connect the banks, the catacombs remind us that beneath beauty lies history, beneath life lies death, beneath the city of light lies the city of bones. But this doesn't make Paris dark, doesn't make it morbid. It makes it complete. It makes it real. It makes it a city that acknowledges all of human experience. Light and shadow, life and death, beauty and mortality, all existing together, all creating the whole. Walk the streets of Paris at night. Listen for the ghost of that gas lamp hiss. Look at the blue street signs. Touch the limestone walls. Cross the bridges. Watch the river. And understand. You're walking through a living artwork. A city that has made light itself into architecture, into culture, into identity. Paris glows, not just with electricity, but with history, with intention, with the accumulated decisions of centuries, all choosing light, all choosing visibility, all choosing beauty. And we continue, moving deeper into this luminous city, discovering more of its secrets, more of its art, more of its eternal magic. Now, we turn inward, away from the streets, away from the bridges and the river. We step through massive doors into a different world, a world of whispers and echoes, a world where time moves differently, where centuries collapse, where the past becomes present. We enter the Louvre. But before we enter, before we walk these galleries, we must understand what this place was, what it became, how it transformed. The Louvre was not originally a museum, not a palace, not a place of beauty and culture. No, it began in the 12th century as something far different, as a dark medieval fortress. Think about that word, fortress. This was not a place of welcome. This was a place of defense, of walls and weapons, of soldiers and stone. It was designed to protect Paris from Viking raids, from invaders who came up the Seine in their longboats, from men who brought fire and violence. The Louvre was Paris's shield, its strong right arm, its dark guardian. If you go to the lower levels today, if you descend the stairs, move away from the crowds and the galleries, you can still touch the original medieval stone walls. These stones are ancient, rough, cold even in summer. They've stood for 800 years. They felt the hands of knights, of guards, of soldiers standing watch through long, dark nights. Run your fingers across these stones, and you touch history directly. No glass between you and the past. Just stone. Just time made solid. You can see the remains of the moat, the silent, deep moat that once surrounded the fortress. Now dry, now empty, but still there, still visible. Imagine this moat filled with water, dark water, reflecting nothing, protecting everything. This was serious architecture, architecture of survival, of power, of the absolute necessity of defense. How strange, how remarkable that this fortress became a museum, that this place of war became a place of art, that these stones that once sheltered soldiers now shelter the Mona Lisa, the Venus de Milo, treasures beyond counting, beauty beyond measure, This transformation, this metamorphosis from fortress to museum, is itself a kind of artwork, a sculpture in time, a statement about what we value, about what we protect. Once we protected ourselves with these walls. Now we protect art. Now we protect beauty. Now we protect the best of what humanity has created. It would take a visitor approximately 100 days to see every piece of art in the Louvre. 100 days. Let that settle in your mind, spending only 30 seconds on each piece. 30 seconds. Just half a minute. A glance. A moment. And even with that rushed pace, even moving constantly, never stopping, it would take 100 days. The sheer volume is overwhelming. Over 380,000 objects in the collection, 35,000 on display at any given time. Rooms upon rooms upon rooms, galleries stretching, corridors extending, beauty multiplying. You could spend a lifetime here and still not see everything, still not understand everything, still discover something new with each visit. The Mona Lisa, perhaps the most famous painting in the world, the face that everyone knows, the smile that has launched 1,000 interpretations. She is surprisingly small. This shocks people when they first see her, measuring only 30 by 21 inches, about the size of a standard window pane. You could hold this painting if you were allowed, if you dared, could carry it under your arm, could hang it in a modest room. And yet, her fame is enormous, her presence overwhelming. Size doesn't matter when you contain the infinite, when your smile holds mystery, when your eyes follow everyone who passes. She is protected by bulletproof glass, thick, clear, unbreakable, and she stays in a climate-controlled room. The temperature never fluctuates, constant, precise, perfect. The humidity monitored, the light measured. Everything controlled to preserve her, to keep her colors from fading, to ensure she survives. She's been through so much, been stolen, been hidden during wars, been attacked, and now she rests, protected, watched, visited by millions who stand before her, trying to understand, trying to see what makes her special, trying to catch that smile. The museum's most massive painting is The Wedding Feast at Cana. This painting, this enormous artwork, covers an entire wall, 70 feet wide, 22 feet tall. It's not a painting you look at, it's a painting you enter, that surrounds you, that overwhelms your vision. It features 130 different figures. Count them if you have time. Each one unique. Each one painted with care, with attention, with skill. This painting was made by Veronese in 1563, painted in Venice, and then, centuries later, cut from its original location and brought to Paris. It required an entire wall to accommodate it, an entire room organized around it. Beauty demanding space, art requiring architecture to contain it. The Louvre is home to the world's oldest statue, the Aeon Gazelle, over 9,000 years old. 9,000. Think about that span of time. This sculpture was carved when human civilization was just beginning, when agriculture was new, when cities were just being imagined. It's carved from white lime plaster, simple material, but shaped by human hands into human form, into face and body and presence. This sculpture has survived through millennia, through empires rising and falling, through languages born and forgotten, through so much history that we can barely comprehend it. And it stands now in the Louvre, quiet, ancient, connecting us to people so distant they seem like myths, but they were real. They carved this, they gave it form, and it remains. In the 18th century, the Louvre became something unexpected, a home for artists, not just a place to display art, but a place to make it. Artists lived in the palace rooms, in spaces that had once housed royalty, had housed courtiers, had housed power. But now these rooms held easels, held canvases, held painters and sculptors. These artists spent their days quietly copying the works of masters, standing before Raphael, before Titian, before Rubens, learning, studying, understanding how the great ones achieved their effects, how they mixed their colors, how they composed their scenes. The Louvre as school, as workshop, as living laboratory of art. The glass pyramid entrance. This structure, this modern intervention, was designed by I.M. Pei, a Chinese-American architect, brought to Paris to solve a problem. The Louvre needed a new entrance, a way to handle the crowds, a way to organize the flow of millions of visitors. But what to build? How to add something new to something so old, so historically significant? Pei proposed a pyramid made of glass, rising from the courtyard, modern, geometric, utterly contemporary. And Parisians hated it with passion, called it an insult, an eyesore, a violation of their beloved palace, history repeating itself. Just as they had hated the Eiffel Tower, just as they resist change, resist the new. But now the pyramid is beloved. Now it's a symbol, not of violation, but of the city's ability to blend the old with the new, to accept change, to grow, to evolve while honoring the past. The pyramid is made of 673 glass panes, each one precisely engineered, precisely cut. These are not ordinary glass. They're extra clear glass, special glass designed not to tint. Most glass has a slight green tint. You don't notice unless you look at the edge. But this tint, over 600 panes, would create a greenish haze, would obscure, would distort. So the glass was specially made, specially treated, to be as clear as possible, so as not to tint the view of the historic palace behind it. So the old can be seen through the new. So past and present can coexist, can complement, can create something greater than either alone. Deep in the basement, in the lower levels where tourists rarely venture, there is a secret medieval well, round, stone-lined, deep. This well once supplied water to the knights guarding the fortress. Imagine them, in armor, tired from standing watch, lowering a bucket, hearing the splash far below, pulling up cool water, drinking deeply. This well served them for centuries, and then was forgotten, covered over, hidden as the fortress became palace, as palace became museum. But it's still there, still accessible, still holding water in its ancient depths, a connection to the military past, to the men who kept Paris safe, the Venus de Milo. This statue, this famous figure of the goddess of love, was discovered in 1820 on a Greek island. Milos, a farmer, digging in his field, struck stone. Not natural stone, carved stone. He dug further and found her, buried in the soil, hidden for centuries. She was missing her arms. They were gone, lost, perhaps broken in antiquity, perhaps stolen, perhaps buried separately and never found. This remains one of art's greatest mysteries. What did her arms look like? What were they doing? Was she holding something? Reaching for something? We'll never know. And perhaps that's better. Perhaps mystery is part of beauty. Perhaps not knowing makes us look more carefully, makes us imagine, makes us dream. During World War II, when darkness fell over Europe, when armies marched, when cities burned, the Louvre's curators faced a terrible question. What do we do with these treasures, these irreplaceable artworks? If bombs fall, if Paris is destroyed, if war comes to these halls, how do we save beauty? And they acted with courage, with intelligence, with desperate determination. They successfully evacuated thousands of artworks, packed them carefully, crated them, loaded them onto H trucks, and hid them in rural chateaux, in castles, in manor houses, in places the Germans might not look, might not bomb, might not destroy. Art scattered across the countryside, hidden like refugees, waiting for the storm to pass. The Mona Lisa received special treatment. Of course she did. She was moved 5 times during the war, traveling from hiding place to hiding place, always in danger, always precious. She traveled in a climate-controlled ambulance, custom-built, temperature-regulated, humidity-controlled. The ambulance drove slowly, carefully, avoiding vibration, avoiding bumps. Every pothole a danger, every sharp turn a risk. The drivers knew what they carried, knew that this small painting contained something invaluable, something that must survive. And she did. She made it through, emerged after the war, returned to Paris, to the Louvre, to her place behind glass. Safe again. There is a legend. Of course there is. Old places collect legends like they collect dust, inevitable, natural. This legend speaks of a ghost called the Red Man of the Tuileries, the garden attached to the Louvre, where Parisians walk, where children play, where lovers meet. But at twilight, when the light fades, when shadows grow long, some say you can see him, a figure in red, a former royal butcher, executed during the Revolution. He wanders the gardens, looking for something, or perhaps just wandering, unable to rest, unable to leave, tied to this place by violent death, by unfinished business, by the weight of history. Do you believe in ghosts? Perhaps not, but walk the Tuileries at twilight, feel the cooling air, hear the rustle of leaves, and you might wonder, might look over your shoulder, might feel that you're not quite alone. The smallest piece of art in the museum is a tiny Babylonian cylinder seal, barely an inch long. You could hold it in your palm, close your fist around it and hide it completely. But look closely, look with magnification, and you see, covered in microscopic carvings, figures, animals, symbols, carved with tools we can barely imagine, by hands that have been dust for millennia. This seal was used to mark ownership, to sign documents, rolled across wet clay. It would leave its impression, its signature, its proof of authenticity. Such a small thing, but it contains a world, contains a civilization, contains the proof that humans have always created, have always made marks, have always said, I was here, I made this, I matter. The Louvre's ceilings. Look up, always look up in the Louvre. The ceilings are works of art themselves, often painted, covered with frescoes, with billowing clouds, with golden deities, with angels and heroes and gods. They look down on the hushed crowds, watch the visitors shuffle past, watch them stare at paintings on walls, often never noticing the masterpieces above their heads. These ceilings required scaffolding to paint, required artists lying on their backs, like Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel, arms aching, necks cramped, paint dripping, but creating beauty, creating wonder, creating something that would last. The museum floors are made of polished oak and marble, designed carefully, intentionally, not just for beauty, but for sound, for acoustic management. These floors are designed to muffle the sound of thousands of footsteps, thousands of people walking every day. If the floors were wrong, if they were hard and reflective, the sound would be overwhelming, deafening, the constant clatter of shoes, of feet, of movement. But instead, the sound is absorbed, softened. The oak and marble drink the noise, create a space where conversation is possible, where contemplation is possible, where you can stand before a painting in relative quiet, despite the crowds, despite the constant flow of visitors. The architecture itself creates the proper atmosphere for art. At night, when the doors close, when the visitors leave, when the lights dim, the museum is guarded by a team of night watchmen. These men walk the 8 miles of galleries, 8 miles, every night, through empty rooms, past sleeping masterpieces, under those painted ceilings, across those quiet floors, walking in near total silence, just the sound of their footsteps, just the occasional creak of old wood, the occasional settling of ancient stone. They walk alone, each on their route, each responsible for their section. Imagine that, alone in the Louvre at night, surrounded by so much beauty, so much history, so much human achievement. The darkness, the silence, the weight of it all. Some would find it frightening, some would find it peaceful. Perhaps both. The Louvre's Cour Carrée, the square courtyard at the heart of the palace. This space is geometrically perfect, a perfect square. And the acoustics are so still, so pure. Stand in the center of this courtyard, clap your hands, and hear the echo. Clear, distinct, mathematical. The sound bouncing off the walls, coming back to you. You can hear a single bird's wing flap, the rustle of feathers, the soft movement of air. This stillness is rare, especially in a city, especially in Paris. But here, in this courtyard, surrounded by architecture, enclosed by history, there is stillness, there is clarity, there is space for sound to exist in its purest form. Many of the paintings in the Louvre were once part of the private collection of King Francis III. This king, who ruled France in the early 16th century, was a close friend of Leonardo da Vinci. A friend, not just a patron, not just a collector, but a friend. Leonardo spent his final years in France as Francis's guest. They talked, they shared ideas, they walked together. And when Leonardo died, Francis mourned and kept his paintings, treasured them, not just as artworks, but as memories, as connections to a friend, as physical remnants of genius. These paintings, these Leonardos now in the Louvre, were once seen by these two men together, were discussed, were admired, were loved. They carry that history, that intimacy, that friendship, the winged victory of Samothrace. This statue stands at the top of a grand staircase. You climb, and she appears, emerging, rising, magnificent. She's carved from grey Latos marble. This marble, quarried in Greece, has a particular quality, a softness, a way of catching light. She represents Nike, the goddess of victory, and she's designed to look like the prow of a ship, the front of a ship, cutting through waves, pushing forward. Her wings, those magnificent stone wings, spread behind her. They're not flat, not static. They curve. They have depth. They have movement. The sculptor, unknown, created the illusion that these wings are catching wind, are about to lift her, that she might at any moment take flight. This statue was designed to be seen from a distance, not close up, but from below. From the bottom of the staircase, looking up. This is where she makes sense, where the proportions work, where the wings appear to flutter in the breeze of the hallway. Stand at the bottom, look up, and you see not just a statue, but a vision, an appearance, a manifestation of victory itself, made stone, made permanent, made beautiful beyond words. The Grande Galerie is nearly a quarter of a mile long. Walk this gallery, start at one end, look down its length. The perspective seems to stretch into infinity. The ceiling arches overhead. The paintings line both walls, hundreds of them, and the gallery extends, on and on. When the doors at both ends are closed, when the gallery is sealed, it creates its own world, its own atmosphere, its own reality. You could walk this gallery for an hour, studying each painting, and barely make progress. The sheer accumulation of art, of beauty, of human creativity, is overwhelming, humbling, magnificent. The light inside the Louvre is carefully filtered, controlled. This is crucial. Light damages art. UV radiation fades colors, breaks down paint, ages canvas, destroys what took years to create. So every window in the Louvre has UV-protected glass, special glass, filtering glass. It looks normal, appears clear, but it's blocking the harmful frequencies, protecting, preserving, ensuring the colors of the past never fade, ensuring that the blue in a Renaissance sky stays blue, that the red in a Baroque rose stays red, that what we see today, our children will see, our grandchildren, generations forward. The light itself is curated, managed, made safe for art. This is the Louvre, this fortress-turned-palace-turned museum, this repository of human achievement, this collection of beauty so vast it would take 100 days just to glimpse. Walk these halls slowly, quietly, respectfully. You're walking through time, through centuries, through the accumulated genius of humanity. Every culture represented, every era preserved, from ancient Babylon to modern France, from tiny seals to massive canvases, from the mysterious smile of Mona Lisa to the missing arms of Venus, from the stillness of empty courtyards to the 8-mile walks of night watchmen. All of it here, all of it waiting, all of it patient. Art doesn't hurry, doesn't demand, just exists, just offers, just waits for eyes to see, for hearts to understand, for spirits to be moved. And we continue onward, deeper still into the treasures of Paris, into the final chapter of our sleepy journey through the city of light. We climb now, leaving the grand museums, leaving the river, leaving the formal beauty of monuments and boulevards. We climb narrow streets, cobblestone paths, winding upward, always upward, to the highest point in Paris, to the hill, to Montmartre. Montmartre is the highest natural point in Paris, 130 meters above sea level, not high by mountain standards, not even high by building standards in modern cities, but high enough to feel different, high enough to see, high enough to breathe air that tastes cleaner, feels lighter. This hilltop village, perched above the city, feels completely separate from the busy city below. You can stand at certain points, look down, and see Paris spread beneath you, like a map, like a dream. But turn around, walk deeper into Montmartre, and the city disappears. You're in a village, quiet, intimate, human-scaled. Because it was outside the city limits for so long. Because Montmartre was technically not. Paris, it enjoyed a special privilege. It was exempt from Parisian wine taxes. Think about what that means. Wine in Paris was expensive, taxed heavily, but walk up the hill to Montmartre, and wine was cheap, affordable, available. This made Montmartre the birthplace of the city's cafe culture. Artists came here, writers, musicians, people with more talent than money. They could afford to sit, to drink, to talk, to dream. The cafes of Montmartre became gathering places, became communities, became the spaces where ideas were born, where movements began, where the future was imagined over cheap wine and endless conversation. The Sacré-Cœur Basilica, the Sacred Heart. This church crowns the hill, dominates the skyline. You can see it from all over Paris. White, brilliant, impossible to ignore. It's made of a special stone called Château Landon limestone. This stone, this remarkable material, has an unusual property. It bleaches itself white whenever it rains. The water, the rain, reacts with the stone, causes it to secrete calcite, a white mineral. This coats the surface, renews it, cleanses it, makes it brighter rather than darker. This means the church stays a brilliant, ghostly white, even as the city's smog, even as pollution and time turn other buildings grey, turn them dark, turn them aged. Sacré-Cœur resists, refuses, remains white, remains pure, remains a beacon on the hill. Rain washes it clean, every storm a renewal, every shower a blessing. The church becoming brighter with each passing year rather than fading, growing more luminous rather than dimmer, a miracle of geology, of chemistry, of choosing the right material for the right purpose. Montmartre is home to the only working vineyard left in Paris. Yes, a vineyard in a city where 2,000 vines still produce Clos Montmartre wine every autumn. These vines, planted on the slopes of the hill, grow in Parisian soil, drink Parisian rain, are tended by Parisian hands. Every October, the harvest comes. The grapes are picked, pressed, fermented, turned into wine. Not much wine, not commercial quantities, but enough. Enough to remind everyone that Paris, before it was a city of millions, before it was monuments and museums, was farmland, was vineyards, was people working the earth, growing things, living with the seasons. The district is famous for its steep, winding staircases. There are 38 separate public stairways that lead up the butte, the hill, the mound. These stairs are not grand, not monumental, not like the stairs at the Louvre. These are working stairs, neighborhood stairs, some stone, some concrete, some worn smooth by a century of footsteps, some steep enough that you need the railing, that you need to pause, to catch your breath. Climbing these stairs, you earn the view, you earn the height. You arrive at the top having worked for it, having felt your legs burn, having felt your heart pump. And somehow, this makes it better, makes the arrival more meaningful, the view more precious. Vincent van Gogh lived in Montmartre with his brother Theo. Picture this, the Van Gogh brothers, Vincent, already painting, already creating, already seeing the world differently. Theo, supporting him, believing in him, loving him. They shared a small apartment, modest, not much money but rich in possibility. Vincent's room looked out over the windmills that still stood on the hill. Yes, windmills in Paris. They ground grain, made flour, turned slowly in the wind. Vincent painted them, captured them. Those windmills are mostly gone now, but they live on in his paintings, frozen in time, preserved in color, turning forever on canvas. The Moulin Rouge, the Red Mill, built in 1889, the same year as the Eiffel Tower. 1889. What a year for Paris. What a year for innovation, for daring, for creating things that would define the city forever. The Moulin Rouge was the first building in Paris to use electric lighting as a decoration, not for function, not just to illuminate, but as art, as spectacle. Red light, brilliant, glowing, visible from far away, drawing people up the hill, promising excitement, promising entertainment, promising a world different from the grey streets below. The lights said, come see, come experience something new. The I love you wall in Montmartre, Le Mur des Je t'aime. This wall, covered in tiles, features the phrase I love you, written 311 times in 250 different languages, every language represented, every way humans have found to express this fundamental feeling, this universal truth. From I love you in English to Je t'aime in French to characters and scripts and alphabets from across the globe. The wall is made of blue lava tiles, dark blue, deep blue, like the night sky. And the words appear in white, in red, like stars, like hearts, like messages, written in light. People come here, touch the wall, find their language, find their words, connect to something larger than themselves. Love made visible, made public, made permanent in tile and stone. Now we leap forward, from Montmartre's bohemian past to Paris's innovative present, to its future taking shape. In the 1970s, Paris built the Centre Pompidou. This building shocked people, still shocks people. It's designed inside out. All its pipes, all its ducts, all its stairs and elevators and infrastructure are on the exterior, on the outside, in bright colors. This was revolutionary. Buildings hide their guts, hide their machinery, keep everything inside, make everything clean and smooth on the outside. But the Centre Pompidou said, no hiding, no pretending. We'll show you how we work. We'll make the infrastructure beautiful. The blue pipes are for air, for ventilation, for breathing. The green pipes are for water, for plumbing, for flow. The yellow pipes are for electricity, for power, for light. Each color coding a different system, making the building look like a giant living machine, like something organic, like you could understand it just by looking. The building teaches you about itself, explains itself, makes visible what is usually hidden. Some people hate it, think it's ugly, think it's wrong. But others see honesty, see transparency, see a building that refuses to lie about what it is. The Pyramide du Louvre, which we mentioned before, acts as more than just an entrance. It acts as a giant skylight, funneling natural sun down into the underground spaces, into the Carousel shopping mall below. Light descending, spreading, transforming what could be a dark underground space into something bright, something open, something connected to the sky above. The pyramid, that shape that caused such controversy, serves this simple but profound purpose, bringing light into darkness, making the underground habitable, beautiful, worth visiting not just for shopping, but for the experience of light and space and geometry. Paris is currently building the Grand Paris Express, one of the world's largest automated metro projects. Billions of euros, decades of work, miles upon miles of new tunnels, new stations, new connections, all designed to connect the suburbs silently. Silently. That word is important. These trains will be automated. No drivers, no announcements blaring. Just smooth, quiet, efficient movement, connecting neighborhoods that were disconnected, bringing people together, reducing car traffic, reducing noise, reducing pollution, making the city more accessible, more equitable, more livable. The St. Regis Paris and other modern towers are now incorporating vertical forests, trees growing on balconies, on terraces, at every level, not just decoration, but function. These trees cool the city air, absorb pollution, create oxygen, provide habitat for birds, for insects, for life. The buildings become ecosystems, become living things rather than dead things. Imagine looking up at a skyscraper and seeing green, seeing branches, seeing leaves moving in wind, the building breathing, growing, changing with seasons. This is the future. This is architecture, learning from nature, working with nature rather than against it. Paris recently passed a law, a requirement. Every new commercial building must have either solar panels or a green roof covered in plants. Every single one. No exceptions. This isn't a suggestion, not a recommendation, but law, requirement. Paris demanding that new construction contribute, that it give back, that it help. Solar panels generating clean energy, green roofs absorbing water, insulating, creating habitat, the city mandating sustainability, mandating responsibility, mandating that building owners think beyond profit. Think about impact. Think about future, the Arc de Triomphe. This massive monument, this symbol of French military glory was wrapped in 2021, wrapped by the artists Christo and Jean-Claude. Actually, Christo had died, but his widow Jean-Claude and their team completed his vision. They covered the entire monument, every surface, in 25,000 square meters of silvery blue fabric, recyclable fabric, tied with red ropes. The effect was astounding, transformative. This temporary installation made the massive stone monument look as light as a cloud. For 16 days, just 16 days, the fabric rippled in wind, caught light, changed color with the time of day. The Arc de Triomphe, usually so heavy, so permanent, so stone solid, became ephemeral, became soft, became something dreamlike. People came to see it, to touch the fabric, to walk around it, to experience this familiar monument made strange, made new. And then, after 16 days, it was unwrapped, returned to stone. But those who saw it, those who experienced it, carried that memory, that vision of stone made soft, of permanence made temporary, of art transforming reality. The Louis Vuitton Foundation, designed by Frank Gehry. This building sits in the Bois de Boulogne, a park, a forest within the city. The building looks like a cluster of glass sails floating in the trees. Not a rectangular building, not a box, but curves, movement, fluidity, like sails catching wind, like a ship made of glass. The building seems to defy gravity, to float, to be impossibly light despite being made of glass and steel. The building is made of 3,600 unique glass panels, each one curved in a different way. No two identical. Each one designed specifically for its location, its purpose, its contribution to the whole. Each one reflects the sky differently, reflects the trees differently, reflects light differently. The building is constantly changing, constantly new. Morning light makes it one thing. Evening light makes it another. Cloudy days, sunny days. Each creates a different building. The glass sails capturing the environment, reflecting it, becoming part of it. Paris has more than 400 public parks. 400 pockets of green, pockets of quiet, scattered throughout the city, creating pockets of silence where the city noise completely disappears. Step off a busy street, walk through a gate, and suddenly, quiet. Trees absorbing sound, grass muffling footsteps, birds singing, water fountains bubbling. The city forgotten, invisible. These parks are refuges, sanctuaries, places to breathe, places to sit, places to read, to think, to simply be without the pressure of urban life pressing in. Paris understands that cities need these spaces, that people need these pauses, that green and quiet are not luxuries but necessities. The Luxembourg Gardens, one of the most beautiful parks, large, formal, perfect. It features 106 statues, scattered throughout, hidden in corners, standing in the open areas. Queens and poets, scientists and artists, each one different, each one unique. And among them, among these stone figures, stands the original small version of the Statue of Liberty. Yes, the Statue of Liberty. The one in New York Harbor is famous, but this one came first. This was the model, the prototype. Smaller, but perfect. Standing quietly in the Luxembourg Gardens, waiting, reminding visitors that the Statue of Liberty, that symbol of American freedom, was a French gift, was created here, was imagined and built in Paris before crossing the ocean. Every evening at sunset, Paris experiences something magical. The Parisian blue hour, l'heure bleue. That moment when the sun has set, but darkness hasn't fallen. When the sky turns deep blue, rich blue, saturated blue. And this blue light, this particular quality of light, turns the limestone buildings a deep sapphire violet. Not quite blue, not quite purple, but something in between. Something otherworldly. The city glows. The stone seems to generate its own light. For perhaps 20 minutes, perhaps 30. Paris exists in this state, in this transformation. And then night falls, and the moment passes. But those who saw it, those who experienced it, carry that blue, that violet, that impossible beauty. The city is gradually replacing its old sirens, emergency sirens, ambulances, police, fire trucks. The old sirens were harsh, loud, startling, designed to cut through noise, to demand attention. But they created stress, created anxiety, created a constant state of alarm. So Paris is replacing them with a lower frequency, soft tone, still audible, still noticeable, still effective, but gentler, kinder, less aggressive, reducing urban stress, recognizing that cities should care for the mental health of their residents, that constant harsh sounds take a toll, that there are better ways. Modern Paris is becoming a 15-minute city. This is a planning philosophy, an ideal. The idea is that residents should be able to reach everything they need within a short, quiet walk. 15 minutes. Groceries, doctors, schools, parks, work, entertainment, all within 15 minutes. This reduces car use, reduces traffic, reduces pollution, but more than that, it creates neighborhoods, creates community, creates the conditions for people to know their neighbors, to walk the same streets daily, to recognize faces, to feel rooted, to feel home. Paris, ancient Paris, modern Paris, future Paris, all working toward this ideal, this vision of human-scaled urban life. And now, as we reach the end of our journey, as the night deepens, as sleep calls to you, imagine this. Imagine the Eiffel Tower's 20,000 lights, sparkling, glittering, diamonds dancing on iron lattice. And then, slowly, gradually, the lights fade out. Not all at once, but gently, softening, dimming, until only the silent silver moon remains, reflected in the Seine. The river moving, slowly, quietly, carrying moonlight downstream, carrying reflections of limestone buildings, of bridges, of the city sleeping. Paris rests. The cafes close. The boulevards empty. The museums darken. The Louvre's night watchmen begin their rounds. The gas lamps in Montmartre hiss softly. The windmills that Vincent painted are gone, but somehow still turning in memory, in dreams. The Mona Lisa smiles in her bulletproof case. The Venus de Milo stands armless and perfect. The Sacré-Cœur gleams white on its hill. The Centre Pompidou's colored pipes sleep. The glass sails of the Louis Vuitton Foundation fold quietly. The parks are empty of people, but full of birds settling for the night. The limestone, that ancient Lutetian limestone quarried from beneath the city, that stone that has held Paris for centuries, grows cool in the night air, releases the day's heat slowly, gently. The blue enamel street signs reflect moonlight. The 37 bridges span the Seine in silence. The catacombs below remain at their constant 57 degrees. 6 million people rest there, have rested there for centuries, will rest there for centuries more. The Eiffel Tower stands dark now, its lights extinguished. Just iron and sky and stars. The tower that was supposed to last 20 years, that has stood for over 130, that will stand for who knows how long. Permanent, beloved, essential, no longer controversial, no longer temporary, but eternal in the way that human creations can be eternal. For as long as we remember, for as long as we care, for as long as we maintain and preserve and love, Paris sleeps. But even sleeping, even dark, even quiet, it remains the city of light. Because light isn't just about illumination, isn't just about brightness. Light is about ideas, about culture, about art, about the human spirit reaching upward, reaching forward, creating beauty, creating meaning, creating connections across time and space and language and culture. You have journeyed with us from the Eiffel Tower's rivets to Montmartre's stairs, from the fortress origins of the Louvre to the glass sails of modern architecture, from gas lamps to solar panels, from medieval stone to vertical forests, from the darkness of the catacombs to the brightness of the blue hour, from the past to the present to the future, all contained in one city, all existing simultaneously, all layered like geological strata, history piled on history, beauty built on beauty. Rest now. Let Paris rest in your mind. Let the images drift. The Iron Tower, the smiling Mona Lisa, the white dome of Sacré-Cœur, the blue street signs, the green bookstalls, the golden horses of Pont Alexandre III, the glass pyramid, the soft glow of limestone, the rippling reflections in the Seine. All of it peaceful, all of it quiet, all of it waiting for morning, for tourists to return, for life to resume. But for now, for this moment, for this night, all is still. The city breathes, softly, in and out, like a sleeping giant, like a dream made stone and iron and glass. Paris dreams of itself, dreams of its past, dreams of its future. dreams of all the people who have loved it, who love it, who will love it. And you can dream too. Dream of walking those cobblestone streets, of climbing those 38 staircases, of standing before the Mona Lisa, of touching medieval stone in the Louvre's basement, of sipping wine in a Montmartre cafe, of watching the lights sparkle on the tower, of standing on a bridge at the Blue Hour, of being part of the story, part of the beauty, part of the eternal city of light. Sleep now. Sleep peacefully. Sleep deeply. The Sleepy City Travelers channel thanks you for this journey, for allowing us to guide you through Paris, through its art, through its architecture, through its light and shadow, through its past and future, through its eternal beauty. The lights are out, the moon is rising, the Seine flows on, and Paris rests beneath the stars, just as it has for centuries, just as it will for centuries more. Eternal, beautiful, forever the city of light. Good night from Paris. Good night from the tower. Good night from the river. Good night from Montmartre. Good night from the sleeping city. Bonne nuit. Sleep well.